Hello there and welcome back to another review. So today we're going to be having a look at another Michelle Yeoh vehicle released here by Eureka Classics, and that is Magnificent Warriors, not to be confused with Royal Warriors, but Magnificent Warriors this time. So this was made in 1987, directed by David Chung, who also directed Royal Warriors that I reviewed previously. The film is very different though. It's very different. It's yes, it is still a D&B film, but this movie is more in line, more akin to something like an Indiana Jones movie, more an action adventure romp here that we got going on. So more Indiana Jones than say Cops and Robbers here. I mean, Michelle Yeoh's character has the whip in this, it's like in this case like a rope dart. She has the leather jacket. We have the rousing theme, sort of a John Williams-esque type theme running throughout the movie. All that is missing from her is the typical like Indiana Jones hat, and you've got a complete Indiana Jones sort of clone going on. But it definitely has that Indiana Jones sort of Spielberg, George Lucas kind of vibe here, with that Hong Kong style thrown in for good measure. So on the surface already, you should be sold and invested already. The idea of like an Indiana Jones Kung Fu with action adventure romp with Michelle Yeoh. Yeah, let's go. So you have to remember the Hong Kong film industry was booming at this point, okay? So this was 1987, so why wouldn't they do like an Indiana Jones type film? Just the year before, Jackie Chan had made Armour of God, so they were getting more adventurous in their filmmaking, going from like the traditional Kung Fu, then into Cops and Robbers, and then like, no, let's go even crazier, let's do action adventures, let's do them kind of films. Just because, you use the same base idea as your template, it's what you do with the idea that matters. I mean, like I say, with that Indiana Jones thing, and you take the idea, but you put a different spin on it, you inject something new into it, and you give it a different take. The film like has a very expansive like look and feel about it, which I think it was made in Taiwan. Most of this, if not all of the film, is on location, and it really adds, giving the film that sense of adventure, and the budget is very much on screen here, and David Chung does a fantastic job. So you have to remember these kind of movies were made on a fraction of the budget that, say, films like Steven Spielberg had, and for that reason alone, Magnificent Warriors succeeds on all levels in terms of its scope and its pure ambition with what it's setting out to try and do. We have fight choreography in this movie done by Hwang, who we all know from Warriors 2, Magnificent Butcher, and more films than you can count. I think him, along with Wang from the lot of the Shaw Brothers, are two people I've probably mentioned the most. Probably Lee Hoi Sang as well, but I think Hwang and Wang Lun-wei are definitely two people in terms of Hong Kong movies who I do mention the most. We also have Richard Un here as like a drifter, though we don't get full-blown comedy from here, akin to say what he would be like in sort of the Lucky Stars movies. He still plays the comic relief, and it's a welcome addition to the supporting cast here. He even gets into sort of more of an action role here, Richard Un, which is very nice sort of to see. Although the film did underperform when originally released, make no mistake, this is a great Michelle Yeoh vehicle, and one that truly captures the confidence of the Hong Kong filmmakers at the time. So Michelle and this guy are selling guns to a village. The whole film is set, I believe, in around the 1930s. And the guy she's with gets shot as one of the villagers is trying out the guns. Worth noting that Yeoh in this film, she's quite happy and carefree. Despite what is going on, her character, for whatever reason, she's always smiling. Like, she's always happy. No matter what is happening, who is shot, or what the stakes are, she always seems to have this massive grin on her face, no matter if it's somebody she knows or cares for that's being shot. She seems, for whatever reason, they've decided to just make her character sort of smile all the time. She's just grinning in most scenes. So the deal goes south, as mentioned. You watch her in this movie do some amazing moves with the rope dart, something straight out of Peking opera. Though one could argue the weapon is the same idea as Indiana Jones, it's the way it's used here that makes all the difference, and Michelle uses it to great effect. So she escapes from the village at one point, laying waste to them with a massive machine gun, and yep, still smiling as she's shooting all these people with a machine gun. She is just one happy person in this movie. Still smiling, so we figure at this point she's just like a carefree sort of mercenary type. Okay, that's sort of what her character is. We have Hwang as a Japanese chasing after this Chinese guy, and we learn that he collaborates with someone on the opposite side for the Japanese. We have Jang-Lee here as one of the villains. He does get to show some moves, but they don't go mad with it, unfortunately. It would have been nice. I think Jang-Lee is vastly, I think he's underused in this film, if anything. I mean, he's there, but I don't think they sort of make the most out of him. He might have just been there as sort of a presence, but he does have the odd fight scene. He does get involved a little bit, but nothing too crazy, nothing too where you think, okay, I've got to watch it for Jang-Lee, but he is there nonetheless. But you know, it's good to have Hwang on board. They really should have given him more screen time as well. So the whole idea is the Japanese are going to set up a poison gas plant in this village, and the good guys get wind of this. This is a film that is a very Hollywood, very much so a Hollywood-esque look and feel. Well, as much as a Hong Kong production could have in terms of a Hollywood feel. Yeoh goes to visit her grandpa, who is being hassled, and you watch her take care of these guys with her rope dart. I mean, it's just with her whip, that weapon that she's got. See there on the front of the cover, she's got it there. But you watch her take care of these guys in spectacular fashion, doing all the moves, spins, and flourishes. And I love at one point she ties one up, she pulls on the rope, and the guy goes flying. He goes absolutely flying. Turns out this was all a test set up by her grandfather to see if she is worthy for the adventure that lays ahead. So she's told to go to the city to find the spies. They want to get this guy out who has information on the Japanese. They send a carrier pigeon to contact the secret agent, but Richard Nunn's drifted character actually captures and I think he does eat here. He does eat the pigeon that they've sent to sort of contact the person. We then have an aerial dogfight with a Japanese plane, and it's done really well. Again, something you wouldn't often see in a Hong Kong production in terms of, like I say, an aerial dogfight. This was something that I think David Chung definitely really does get as much mileage out of as possible with this scene, and many could argue it does go on a little bit too long, but I think in terms of when you think of a Hong Kong production, David Chun's basically saying, look, I've got an aerial dogfight in mind, and I think he gets as much mileage out of it as she can. Still smiling and looking happy all the time while this is going, even when she shoots the guy's cockpit and his plane explodes, and after he crashes, she's still smiling. I love when these bandits to go to find Richard Un in the gambling den, and I love when they kick him and he sort of like bounces around they kick him and he sort of bounces around the building for some reason, which I thought was quite funny. If you watch it, I can't do it justice by describing it, but if you watch that scene when sort of you're introduced to Richard Un's character, you watch it when he gets kicked, it just makes me laugh. So Yeoh thinks at first he is the secret agent. He has the watch that was attached to the carrier pigeon. So Hwang and his buddy overhear them talking and pretend to be part of the resistance. Great fight here, as you would expect, with Hwang doing some great stuff with the sword. And I love out of nowhere too, Richard Un just randomly has this big, if you watch this scene, out of nowhere he just has this big massive hammer. And they just comes out of nowhere. So they go to the palace to basically get this guy out. We see the Japanese putting like the gas canister in a gas mask, and they get one of their captives to experience it. Again, Yeoh's still happy and smiling. She's still happy and smiling throughout the movie. Doesn't matter what is happening around her. Yeoh's character in this is just always super happy, smiling, enjoying herself. So Hwang's accomplice comes to the enemy to inform them about the secret agent Yeoh is working with, but he gets shot by one of these arrows. Yeoh finds the guy and they want after he has got out the bath, and his girl Chin Chin helps them escape. Richard Un is brought to the palace as he has bailed on them earlier and joins our crew just for good measure and joins them in their escape. It is a bit weird, this scene, because initially this girl is left there, right? When they get to the sort of the palace area, this girl she is sort of left there, and she sort of lets them sort of escape, covering for them. But in the very next scene, she is standing there alongside them, right? She's like, you go. She helps them sort of escape, and in the very next scene, she's there with them. So not sure when she left the palace or anything. So they've got the guy out, and their next mission is to get petrol for the plane and kill one of the generals, right? So this is quite a simple story. It's quite a simple plot. Get this guy out, get some petrol for the plane, and you go from there. So they have got the guy out. So even though there's like 5 of them, and the plane is only a 2-seater, so I'm not sure of how they thought that one through. So I'm not sure if they've completely got an idea of what they're doing. So this crew all sort of band together, even though like Richard Earn's character really has no need to help. I guess it's the idea he wants to make a difference, to do something to help the cause or whatever. So out of nowhere, they all get uniforms. And they go into the base, and of course it ends up blowing up, and they escape by jeep with no fuel. One could argue, as I say, this is one of the best Michelle Yeoh movies in terms, like, when you think of her solo work. I think Magnificent Warriors, I probably prefer it to Royal Warriors if you was to put me on the spot. I think Magnificent Warriors, just for its pure ambition, I think makes it just a tiny bit superior. You could even as well, I mean, like I say, even definitely probably was the best movie that Michelle Yeoh had made up to that point. Watch the action scene here where she is taking on the troops with spears, and Hwang Jang-Lee, like I mentioned, he does get some action with just amazing choreography. Suddenly out of nowhere, she is on a motorbike. Out of nowhere, she just grabs this motorbike and helps her friends escape. And what I love about the movie, like I mentioned, is that it's simple, it's fun, and it's just pure Hong Kong movie escapism. Like, there's no, sort of really patronising message, or it doesn't lecture you in any way. As I say, it's got that Indiana Jones action adventure romp going through it. Let's just have a good time. Even when they can't escape and get captured, she is still smiling, by the way. If you watch this film, if you have seen this film or you've never seen it and you're about to watch it, just notice, regardless of what's going on, I can't stress enough how much her character just keeps smiling. She is always just laughing. So she just keeps on having this grin on her face. So what makes me laugh is they are all tied up at one point, right? Yeoh, the secret agent, Richard Earn, etc. Bearing in mind the enemy has them. Look, they could die any minute, right? This kind of, when I say it doesn't really take itself that seriously. None of them seem that worried about what is about to happen. Like, they could be dying, like about to die any minute. And they all just, for whatever reason, just start comparing stories about where they're from and things like that. Even at one point, everyone laughing, even the villagers, when Richard Earn's character complains about Hwang Jang-Lee's breath. So they don't seem to be in that much peril. They don't seem to be in that much trouble regardless of what's going on. I mean, you wouldn't know they're potentially about to be executed at this point. This is what the whole setup is. They're about to be executed, but you wouldn't know that through what's going on. So the guy, Yeoh, who they were trying to get out, goes back to his original post. Wasn't he trying to escape with them? The guy they tried to get out, they go back. Wasn't he sort of aiding them? But the Japanese sort of let him go back to his original position. He doesn't get punished or anything in any way. He has he's like the city head, and he has to announce their execution because he says they are innocent. He gets tied up with them. Like, wasn't he going to escape with them anyway? Wouldn't they question why they were trying to get him out, and wouldn't they have just tied him up anyway? Because he says there, if he was aiding them, and why wasn't he just tied up anyway? Why didn't the enemies think, okay, if you're on their side, right, you can die with them and be executed? So his girl runs in, says you can't kill him, gets kicked in the back of the head, and then gets tied up too, and they very quickly blink and you miss it, but they kill her dad here as well. So after the villagers cheer his name, Yeoh, the firing squad don't fire and help you untie them, and the villagers all happy, and they have stood up and not backed down. They've stood up for what they believe in. And look at the scene after this, right? Just watch the scene after this, because there's a few little things about this movie that don't make 100% all that much sense. But after this, Chin Chin is like, I want to avenge my father, right? She's like, I want to avenge my father. And like I said, his death is literally blink and you miss it. She stands there, they're standing together. She's like, I want to avenge my father, and they all just ignore her. She says this, if you watch this movie, she says that they all just ignore when they're standing in a group. Yes, Yeoh is still smiling as well, by the way. She is still smiling. One of your new friend's dad has just been killed, and Michelle Yeoh is still smiling in the movie. So going to defend the city from the Japanese, who come back team-handed with weapons and trucks. And as remember, they want to build this poisonous gas plant. Not sure why it has to be here or anything like that, but this is where they've chosen to build this plant. So the ending turns into a mini sort of Lord of the Rings, like Two Towers end of that movie, battle with like catapults and bows and arrows and God knows what else. And I love how the Japanese want to take control of the city, and they do this. They want to take control of this city, right? They want to just like make it theirs and sort sort of set up base there. And in order to do that, their logic is, well, we'll just blow the crap out of it. You know, that's what they we'll just blow the crap out of the place. You know, we want it, so we'll just absolutely just bomb the crap out of it with bombs, dynamite, you name it. It also reminds me a bit of like Zulu as well with Michael Caine. David Chung really doesn't skimp on the explosions at the end of the movie, and was a sign that Hong Kong was getting more into that Hollywood big bangs and sort of explosion territory, and not just focusing on fight scenes and things like that. So Richard Earn still, like I mentioned, still has comedy moments. He still has his little moments to shine here and there, doing the whole playing dead thing, throwing the wrong part of a grenade and not the actual grenade itself. You know, the real shame about the ending, and the thing I feel lets it down, is there is no big massive showdown, like I mentioned, with Hwang, Jang-Lee. And there damn well should have been. There really should have been in this movie. That should have been an end fight. That should have been a fight to end all fights. We should have had at least a 8 to 10 minute showdown between Michelle Yeoh and Hwang Jang-Lee. And like I say, they do go toe to toe a little bit, but it's nothing that you would really write home about, and nothing that you remember that well. I mean, there is one there. They do have, but as I say, it's cut way too short. And that's a real shame. It's just too brief. She finishes him off by like kicking down the roof of this like small hut thing, and there's no way this would have killed him. Like, there is no way. It was only like a tiny little hut, and I was waiting watching this for him to emerge and sort of come back out of the wreckage. But that's it, so the fight could continue. But that it doesn't. It's like this when you watch it. This little hut falls on him. There's no way it would have killed him. There's no way on earth. But unfortunately, they miss out on an opportunity with Hwang Jang-Lee and Michelle Yeoh. They does so there is a little fight, but it's nothing, unfortunately, that goes on too long, and nothing that memorable. But I think David Chung probably was more, well, we got enough explosives and things going on, and the sheer scope and the ambition of what I'm trying to do will be enough. And it is quite an action-packed ending. So they surrender as the Japanese have hostages, which last for all of 2 seconds, as they then make a break for it. The Japanese surrender, and all this over a small castle city thing. So after all this, the city actually burns to the ground, and the Japanese just move on as they can't build their gas plant there anymore. It all ends all triumphant, like, yay, we did it, yay, we showed them. These people now have no home. They're all sort of patting each other on the back. We've done it. Yeah, we got rid of them. Didn't you need petrol for your plane? What about this? Is that still a problem? Do we need to still get petrol for the plane? Chin Chin's dad died, and I'm pretty sure loads of villagers died too. But they're all like, yeah, we did it. Michelle Yeoh's still smiling, and it's like, when you stack it up, not everything's worked out. You still need to find petrol. These people have lost their home. Her dad died. When you look at it, if you ignore that, like the characters' faces and Michelle Yeoh's smile, it wasn't exactly that victorious. The ending of this movie, but this is me. That's just me being super picky. I love Magnificent Warriors. I wouldn't say, like I say, it's a bona fide like classic, but it's a really enjoyable action adventure romp with that Indiana Jones vibe going through it. It's a great barnstorming action flick, and like I say, a great Indiana Jones Hong Kong action adventure, which is just great entertainment. And whilst not perfect, not by any means, but the film is highly enjoyable, and it's still one worth checking out. And as I mentioned, made in 1987, I think that this is definitely Michelle Yeoh's, up to that point, was Michelle Yeoh's one of, I think, personally, her best film. I do prefer this over Raw Warriors, as I mentioned, but let me know if you've seen both movies, which one do you prefer out of the two. But if you haven't seen it, go and check out Magnificent Warriors, and let me know what you think. So thank you very much indeed for watching. Hope you enjoyed the review. I'll see you soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger, or you will miss all that heavenly glory.